Good evening, black people and all allies fighting for black liberation, black prosperity, and black joy. I'm Charles Blow, and welcome to Prime. Let me just say this right off the top. We have to stop talking small about what is happening in this country, what Republicans are attempting to do to this country. We have to draw the connection between their insistence on not full-throatedly condemning the mostly white insurrectionists to their attempts to disenfranchise mostly non-white voters. Our very democracy hangs in the balance. Republicans are trying to redefine democracy smaller and backward to a time when white people held most of the power. This cannot simply be brushed off. We should all be scared to death and fighting like crazy. Our democracy is fragile and it is evolving. It is a relatively new phenomenon in the world, and it can be broken. It can collapse. Take what's happening in Texas. Texas Republicans now say they'll tweak parts of their controversial election bill that would have impacted black churchgoers the most by limiting early voting on Sundays to between 1 and 9 p.m. Voting rights advocates noted the direct impact that would have had on souls to the polls, which is a practice we all know where black churches encourage members to vote early after Sunday morning services. Lawmakers are set to revisit the legislation in a yet-to-be-called special session after Democrats staged a dramatic walkout late Sunday night, with Governor Abbott also threatening to withhold those lawmakers' pay. The Texas bill would do all these things. Number one, ban 24-hour drive-through voting, protect partisan poll watchers by criminalizing election officials who reject a designated watcher, block Sunday voting before 1 p.m., and make it harder to vote by mail. The Texas District and County Attorneys Association also says they've counted at least 16 new criminal penalties the bill would impose related to elections. And as the Associated Press notes, another new provision would also make it easier to overturn an election in Texas, allowing for a judge to void an outcome if the number of fraudulent votes cast could change the result, regardless of whether it was proved that fraud affected the outcome. So in the end, Republicans are trying to limit the number and kind of people who can vote, and on the back end, they are trying to give themselves the option of voiding those votes. And many of the provisions in the Texas bill are similar to provisions passed in several other states this year. In fact, at least 14 states so far this year, almost all of which are controlled by Republican governors and legislators, have enacted 22 new laws that restrict access to the vote, according to the Brennan Center. The most restrictions are likely to become, more restrictions are likely to become law as roughly 1/3 of legislatures are still in session. Joining me now to discuss the latest out of Texas is the Texas Legislative Black Caucus Vice Chair, Ron Reynolds. Ron, so Democrats walk out, that stalls it. It makes them go back and take a look at some provisions to take away some of the sting of it. But this thing is still very much likely to become law. Is that correct?
Charles, that is correct. It's an honor to be on your show. And when Governor Abbott calls us back, unless we're able to defeat it again, it will become law. But this is a time for us to continue to make good trouble. This is a voter suppression Jim Crow 2.0 bill that never, ever in 2021 should become law in this state or any state in this United States of America.
So why is it, Texas starts even before this law with some of the most regressive voting laws on the books of any state. Why are they going back to make it even more difficult to vote in Texas? And this is a state that the Republican presidential candidate, Donald Trump, won.
Charles, this is all perpetuated by the big lie that Donald Trump made to Americans that he lost because of voter fraud. So this is a solution in search of a problem that doesn't really exist. So they're doing nothing more than trying to disenfranchise, make no mistake about it, I'm not going to miss my word, black and brown and the disabled that tend to vote Democrat. They're trying to tip the scales so that Republicans can gain more of an advantage to make sure that Republicans stay in power. We had record turnout in 2020 elections where Democrats closed the gap. There was no evidence of voter fraud anywhere. So this is Republicans attempting to disenfranchise people without poll taxes or literacy tests by taking away souls to the polls, as you articulated during your opening monologue. This is nothing more than modern day Jim Crow, and we have to fight it and we have to call it what it is. I'm thankful that President Biden came out strong against it, and I'm looking forward to Vice President Kamala Harris helping us get the U.S. Senate to pass the John Lewis Act, because this is unacceptable in these Republican-dominated states. This is modern day Jim Crow, and we've come too far to turn back the clock.
So how much do you think it was Republicans in Texas believing what Donald Trump had said about the big lie and him losing the election, and how much it was they just waiting for an excuse that they
Charles,
could use to push more regressive laws?
I think it's a little bit of both. There are some true believers that believe everything he said, like, that the, coronavirus was a big hoax and they would take whatever he told them to take. And then there are others who were looking for an excuse to use this as a pretext to pass the most regressive voting restrictions than we've seen since the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Charles, you and I know too many of our forefathers whose shoulders we stand on literally died for the precious fundamental right we have to vote. And Lord knows we cannot ever go back to a place where we are limiting people's ability to vote simply because of the color of their skin. But in Texas and other states, that's exactly what they're trying to do. And this is unpatriotic, it's un-American, it's un-Texan, and we're going to continue to fight to make sure this does not happen on our watch.
Ron Reynolds, I really appreciate you joining me tonight. Thank you so much, sir. As I mentioned earlier, restrictions are being imposed rapidly at record rates across the nation. 14 states so far have enacted 22 new laws that restrict access to the vote, and that number will increase. Joining me now to discuss on a national level is contributor to the Boston Globe, Shermichael Singleton. Shermichael, how are you, sir?
Hey, Charles, I'm great, man. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I keep thinking about this, I don't want to think in small terms about this story, and every time a new state passes a new law, we cover that as an incremental thing. I truly do see it as a threat to democracy, as it has grown to be in this country. We start with a country where it was only rich white men who were allowed to vote, and they never thought that anybody else would ever vote, including the founders. But it grew. And now I see this retrenchment. Is that how you see it, or how do you see what's happening with all these voter restriction laws?
I mean, I think it's interesting, and what it does suggest and indicate is that there are some individuals within the Republican Party who may indeed be concerned with demography, with the way the electoral map is changing, in part because of demographic changes. And I don't know, Charles, if that necessarily has a lot to do with African Americans, but more so to do with perhaps Hispanics, who are the fastest growing demographic group. Actually, about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago now, I wrote a column talking about how my concern within the Republican Party when I was still a Republican consultant was that I was afraid that the Republican Party's rhetoric was going to the Hispanic vote what we did under Barry Goldwater, I believe in the 60s, with African Americans, which really was sort of the nail in the coffin, his position on civil rights, et cetera, for African Americans finally saying, you know what, we just cannot vote for Republicans anymore because they are anti our freedom, anti our liberties. And sure enough, 3 years later, it's almost as if those things are coming into fruition. And so I think you have a party that is somewhat concerned with its ability to see some type of an electoral competitive advantage within these new demographic groups. And so instead of trying to find other ways to be competitive, maybe changing the messaging, maybe changing who the messengers are, the party is deciding to utilize a legal system legislatively to change the laws to make things a little more challenging. Now, I will say, Charles, I'm not necessarily against people having to have an ID to vote. My reply would be, okay, if you want people to have an ID to vote, I'm all for that. Just make it easier for people to get the ID so that they can have it when they have to vote.
But see, that's the thing, though, Shermichael. I mean, first of all, if Republicans really wanted to win on their issues, they could just appeal to a broader section of the electorate rather than trying to whittle the electorate down to the people who agree with them. That is anti-democratic, period. And the second thing, on the voter ID laws and other voter restrictions, it's not like we don't know that they studied which kinds of ID people were least likely to have and literally wrote those things into law, right? So it's not like it's not like, you know, a capricious little thing that people just said, okay, we should just have ID laws. No. And in Texas, the fact that you could literally walk in with a gun registration and vote, but you can't walk in with a student ID and vote, I mean, that's extraordinary.
I mean, look, I think it was North Carolina where the state Supreme Court stated at the time, about several years ago, that the Republican leadership with surgical precision targeted African Americans. And I would not be surprised if other courts won't find similar behaviors in other states. Again, look, I've always been of the decision, or of the mindset rather, Charles, that you compete based on your ideals and ideas. And if people believe in them and if they are great, and if you're really focused on trying to change the specific things that impact one group versus the other, then I think you'll win on the merits. I think people are smart enough to say, okay, yeah, the party has sort of been crappy for a while, but they are really trying to make some headwind here in the new direction with new people. They're really trying to address certain issues that are of concern to maybe blacks or Hispanics or Asians. You know, I think I can seriously give them my vote. And I think that's perhaps a longer strategy for the party. I think, you know, it's a bit short-sighted to continue to focus on a narrowing percent of the overall voter population. And by that, I mean non-people of color, because people of color are becoming the majority. In the next 20 years, we will represent 50% of the country. And by we, I mean people of color, that is. And I don't just mean that blacks and Asians and Hispanics necessarily will only vote Democratic, because we know that there are blacks, Hispanics, and Asians who vote Republican. We also know that there are some Hispanics who identify as white. And so there are a lot of dynamics here, Charles, that I think we have to consider when we're trying to overall assess demography, when we're trying to overall assess the positioning of the Republican Party as it currently stands. And again, whether or not this strategy that the party is clearly putting in place is a winnable strategy in the long term. I don't believe it is. And I think hindsight is going to be 2020, literally 10 years from now, when the party's looking back on what they're currently doing now and say, crap, we made a significant mistake. We're completely outnumbered. No one wants to vote for the Republican Party. And so then you have this discussion, well, is it time for a new conservative party? And if that is indeed the case, can such a party even have viability? I mean, there's all of these questions, Charles, that a lot of people are starting to think about and give serious consideration to, that I don't think leadership is thinking about today, that I think leadership tomorrow will definitely have to grapple with.
Shermichael Singleton, you always make it sound far less dire than I think it is. But thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it, sir. The President of the United States acknowledged a massacre today, but that may not be good enough. We'll talk about that next.